Welcome one and all to episode 33 of Titan Teatime. I'm Petter and this is James.
Hello!
And today we are taking a look back at the War for Paradis arc of the Attack on Titan manga. And I think the fandom has deemed the War for Paradis arc to be everything after the Marley arc, so the last 8 volumes of the manga. But,
Whew.
well, we don't want to talk about 8 volumes today. Plus, I also don't think that the last 4 volumes really fit under the name War for Paradis arc, because it's not about the War for Paradis anymore at that point. So we are only talking about the 4 volumes, like the first 4 volumes after the Marley arc, being volumes 27 to 30, and that's chapters 107 to 122. And so we're saving the last 4 volumes for next month. The last 4 volumes being what I like to call the Battle of Heaven and Earth arc.
Yeah.
But anyway, since this is a reread for both me and James, there's a chance we'll bring up anything from throughout the entire Attack on Titan manga today. So here's a spoiler warning for all of Attack on Titan. Yeah, I guess what's cool about this month's episode is that this reread or this revisit takes us to the point of the manga where we started Titan Teatime back when we were doing the monthly reads of the chapters, being chapter 119. So it's fun to be caught up with that now.
Absolutely. And, reading some of the chapters that we read when we were doing it monthly, or, the monthly new releases, I really have an appreciation. I'm sure I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but an appreciation for taking in the story one chapter at a time, but, well, within the volumes,
Yeah.
Like, not having to wait a month and speculate and overthink things
For
in
sure.
between.
Yeah.
I think it puts the story into better perspective. And especially since, like we were saying, we had been covering it, one chapter a month. Now reading it all together, it makes a lot more sense, or it comes together in a better way, I think.
Definitely. And this was like today I read this arc or these 4 books, and it was the first time I read all of this like in quick succession. Like I'd never done that before. I never went back and reread these later chapters. Like basically most of the stuff from after the Marley arc I never really reread as multiple chapters at once before. So I definitely felt that, like that you were saying, and yeah, it makes for a far better experience, I think.
Yeah.
Getting into the contents of these books, the first thing I want to bring up is, well, the tattoo on Mikasa's wrist that finally becomes relevant here after it was just very vaguely hinted at in the Trost arc, or in a flashback in the Trost arc. And while I think it's cool that Isayama was able to do something out of that thing that was established so early on, I'm not completely satisfied with, I guess, how much it gave us. Like it didn't really lead to much, sadly.
I agree. I think it was a neat way to tie in the outside world and bring in a new group very briefly. But yeah, it doesn't really lead to anywhere, and it doesn't really hold much repercussions for the overall story.
Yeah.
It's almost just like, oh, this would be a neat idea.
Yeah.
I don't know where to go with it though. So
yeah.
it's almost like this is how I'll resolve this, but it's so minor. I guess it doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah. Because it had a lot of potential, I thought. Like it could have been something really cool. But oh well.
Yeah. I guess suppose that she was some sort of royalty or a leader of a clan, but it doesn't matter. It goes nowhere.
Yeah.
But it did give us Kiyomi, I guess, in a way. So.
Right. Yeah. It does kind of establish her character, both good and bad sides, kind of. Yeah, you're right.
So a couple scenes that I love. The one in the very beginning with Hanji, I mean, it's just hilarious. Another hilarious scene where she's just kind of commenting on how awkward Aaron's actions are sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Very Junibyo kind of a thing. Oh, I'm so cool. Like, gotta keep fighting, edgy kind of thing.
And it's also like is this like the 3rd time that she's talking to him from like the other side of like prison bars? I think
we got to stop meeting like this.
Yeah.
But in that scene, you also see the start of Hanji feeling kind of useless and how she's
Mm,
overwhelmed by the whole thing, and we
yeah.
see that later on that she's really trying her best,
Oh yeah.
and and I think she does a pretty good job, especially when she saves Levi and somehow gets Magath to join together. And I've grown a greater appreciation over this reread for Hanji than I had previously. I think if I were to redo my list, I might put her in my top 10.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, definitely worthy of that. I agree. I think Hanji was the only one that we both had in our honorable mentions, right?
I think I did not have her in my honorable mentions,
Oh.
but I was grateful that you mentioned her,
Ah.
like that you put her
I guess
on.
maybe only I did. But yeah, I think well my favorite line by her in that scene is when she says like you said fight twice. Does that mean the fight is gonna have 2 rounds or like two or whatever? She like it was something like that. I know it's like just a small little thing, but I always find it funny.
Yeah.
But yes. And also like Aaron lashing out at Hanji there in that scene,
Mm-hmm.
like is such a sad moment since understanding how badly he wanted to find another option and how much
Right.
like how bad he felt about the thing that he like the only option that he knew. It just like knowing everything, it just makes it even sadder kind of now.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's really good.
I think he comments on how he can be free whenever he wants,
Yeah.
but in reality, he was trapped by the, I guess, what he believed the only possible way. By fate, he was still trapped by what was going to happen.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so it's kind of a contradiction or an oxymoron or whatever you want to call it.
Well, he said he could be free of the prison whenever he wanted,
Right.
right?
I know.
But yeah, no, that's still interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it being like, yeah, he's not free mentally or spiritually or whatever
Yes.
or
Hmm.
emotionally, but he is free physically.
Right. Physically, he can get out of there whenever he wants.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's safe to say, bringing up Historia,
Hmm?
that she chose to have the child on her own. Like it wasn't necessarily she was coaxed into
Mm.
doing so, right?
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
I think so.
But I also think it wasn't just to protect herself. I kind of think maybe she wanted to be a mother.
Yeah, I could see
Uh,
that. I could see that.
Obviously, we don't have exact confirmation of that, but I can see her wanting to be the mother that she never had. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely that. And I think even if she didn't get the child for that specific reason, I think that's still clearly true for her character. Like based on
Yeah.
how we've seen her at the orphanage with the kids there, at the very least.
Hmm.
But yeah, like probably like definitely also with her own child for
Yeah.
sure.
I can agree with that.
Mm.
And obviously, it's I don't think it's the best conclusion for her. It could have been better,
Mm.
but the story would have been a lot more different. I don't think you could have had. I don't know if you could have given Historia more of a better conclusion or more of a role in the story, and still have the same story be told. Does that make sense?
I think so. Of course, it's hard to tell, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
you're right.
can
You're
I can
right.
see that though. I think because there's still a couple of flashbacks, or at least one relatively big one we get when she's talking with Aaron in the
Hmm.
next 4 volumes at some point.
Oh, that's right.
I
Hmm.
think that may also touch a little bit on her child, and I think the implication there is also that she made the decision to have the child, if I recall.
Hmm.
So I think yeah, I think it's safe to say that she made that choice.
Okay. Cool. Wasn't Aaron who forced her, people.
No, yeah, I
It's
really
not.
don't think so.
Okay.
But well, speaking of flashbacks, I think one of the at least in these 4 books, the sweetest, like absolutely the sweetest scene I would say is the flashback when they're on the railroad and they're talking about who would inherit Aaron's Titan and well, it kind of culminates in everyone just kind of blushing because they realize they
Yeah.
like each other too much. It's
Yeah.
just really sweet.
I agree. It's one of the most wholesome moments
Mm,
in the show. And it reinforces that Aaron does care for his friends.
yes.
And it just kind of makes the whole Aaron persona leading up to his connecting with Zeke all the more confusing and bewildering.
Yeah.
Why is he this way when we know he cares so much for his friends?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Exactly.
maybe it was just uh, to make the reader doubt just as much as the main characters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in that sense, I think Isayama did a good job. But also, I can see people feeling it's a bit wishy-washy and maybe not consistent. So I can see that as well. But I kind of like it. In hindsight, I kind of like the not knowing exactly what's going on and the frustrating mystery behind it.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I
I
was frustrated.
definitely, I really enjoy it personally,
Hmm.
and especially like rereading it now, it's just a lot of fun to see like how all these different hints throughout the story, kind of how it all adds up to what we know and what ended up happening. Kind of,
Right.
I'm having a lot of fun with that.
Absolutely.
So we know since the final chapter that Ymir was the cause of all of Mikasa's headaches, or
Hmm.
the headaches that she had from time to time, and pretty early on in this arc, Mikasa had one of those headaches, and she received a vision of the scene when she and Eren killed
Right.
the human traffickers. And in that little flashback, or the visions that she saw, Eren told her, "It's okay now. You can relax." And so I was thinking, why would if it is the case that Ymir showed Mikasa that vision, like for some
Hmm.
reason, I was thinking like, why could that have been? And I figured that it could have been to kind of help ease Mikasa's mind somehow, like in a way, because
Mm.
I think I can remember. I think was that after she had talked to Louise, or it was something
Yeah.
that got her upset, and to some extent at least. So I was thinking if it could have been to maybe ease her mind, or like an attempt to that perhaps by Emir, or if she did it in order to kind of even further help Mikasa view Eren as someone that is on her side, and that she can, or as someone that can protect her, kind of. Um, what do you think on all of that?
Yeah. No, it was hard because I really couldn't come to a concrete answer because it felt like that would be something that Aaron would tell her to not worry, but we
Mm,
know it was Emir who was sending her the
yeah.
messages through the headaches. So yeah, I wonder exactly what. Maybe it was just reinforcing the fact that Aaron is important to her, and um, I guess why she's loyal to him.
Exactly, yeah, because Ymir needed Mikasa. Like Mikasa was crucial to Ymir for her
Hmm.
to achieve the freedom that she ultimately got. So I guess she needed Mikasa to, well, either to trust in Eren, or to just, well, keep a level head in that moment. I'm thinking it's one of those things, or a combination of those two things. At least that's all I could come up with.
I think that's a good theory.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Hmm. But yeah, it's fun. Like this was obviously not a discussion that we could have had when this chapter was new. Like
Right.
why that vision came up there. Like for example, So yeah, yeah, it's fun.
It's nice to be able to know what the headaches are,
Oh yes, absolutely.
or what was the reason for them.
Hmm.
Um, I guess, but speaking of that scene, Mikasa really does not like Louise.
No.
And I'm a little influenced by what just happened in the anime, but
Oh yeah.
it, it yeah, it just does not go over well between the two. And I wonder if it's she kind of maybe she sees herself in Louise, in someone who is hopelessly following after their hero or the person they admire.
Mm,
Uh,
ooh, yeah. Oh my god, I never thought of that actually as a similarity between them. But you're absolutely right.
I don't know, and also Louise sides with the Jaegerists, who she does not agree with. despite having Jaeger in the name, she's not for that. So I don't really see a big issue of her not particularly caring for Louise, especially someone that she hardly knows. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. And then later on, she steals the scarf. That I think it's now that I think back on it, when Mikasa puts down that scarf, I don't think she's getting rid of it forever. She's just not going to take her with it in this moment,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
I
know?
think so as well now.
And
Yeah.
so she expected the scarf to be there. And when it
Hmm.
wasn't, I was okay, well, who stole my scarf?
Yeah.
You know?
Right. Yeah, yeah, totally. One of the things that makes this arc as good as it is, or I'll even say one of my, or possibly, well, yeah, no, one of my favorite things about this arc,
Uh-huh.
absolutely, was the reintroduction of Kaya and Sasha's father,
Yep.
and how great they make this arc with that they, well, for one, they help us remember Sasha in various ways,
Hmm.
but they also help Gabby grow a lot, and I think that I think her growth throughout this arc is probably, I will say, hands down, one of my two favorite things in this entire arc.
Yeah, definitely. The Kaya Gabby relationship is really great to see because
Mm.
it starts off in distrust and they gain each other's trust, and then it flips to the other side distrusting the other.
Mm.
And in this arc, it ends with Gabby realizing, oh my gosh, I'm in the wrong. These people are just people. They're not devils. Um, how can I atone for what I've done?
Yeah,
And I like that change. And Gabby's character change is really one of the highlights of this arc.
really is.
Um, yeah, she's really a great character.
Yeah, that scene when she and Falco and Colt are hiding in one of the buildings in Shiganshina, and
Hmm.
Gabby has that whole talk about understanding that all Eldians are humans just like everybody else, and Falco confessing his love to her, like that scene is yeah, definitely one of my favorite scenes in this arc, and also it was excellently adapted in the anime.
Oh yes, absolutely. I agree.
Mm,
Phenomenally done.
yes.
So another thing about the anime, uh, in this arc we just read, Gabby gets bitten by the horse, right? Haha,
It-
fun's the hilarious scene.
yeah.
But they also mentioned the fact that she doesn't know how to ride a horse,
Hmm.
and yet later on she's riding a horse. Did she learn how to ride a horse? Did I
Oh.
did I miss that? Like they specifically say, "Oh, you don't know how to ride a horse." You're right. I don't know how to ride a horse.
You're right. Yeah.
And then she rides a horse with Armin. Did she just learn? I mean, fast learner, sure, that's fine.
I mean, yes. Well, I think we can safely say that she is indeed a fast learner.
Yeah,
I think
she
it.
really is.
So I can buy it, but yeah, you're right. It's interesting. I hadn't thought of that before. Yeah, yeah.
We also got the infamous "No touching that girl allowed" scene.
Yes, yes. Another favorite line.
Hmm.
For sure.
I think that was all in Volume 27. So Volume 27 had some pretty solid one-liners.
Absolutely. Yeah, during Hanji's conversation with Onyankopon, that happened like shortly after they arrested all of the volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
There was a part of that, kind of near the end of that conversation that they had before they left, when we learned that Yelena had fought pretty adamantly for Marleyan rights on Paradis,
Mm.
which I guess it's not something that I recall, that I remembered since reading this chapter a pretty long time ago. So
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting, that that's kind of an early hint pointing toward her being Marlene herself. I thought that
Yeah.
was pretty cool.
Agreed. I guess we'll talk about this more maybe in the next arc, but
Hmm?
I feel like Yelena kind of dropped off in importance after Flock takes over. You know what I mean? In this arc, she has
Mm.
her moment, like her big moment to shine, I think, and then just kind of teeters away. Uh,
Yeah.
I wish she would have had a little more to do besides just be sick with a broken leg, but oh well. I mean, she served her purpose as being kind of the mouthpiece for her god, a
Yeah.
prophet, if you will.
Absolutely.
So that was good, but I kind of wish there was a better conclusion for her purpose and character. But
Mm.
it was, I mean, there's just so many characters and
Yeah.
only so much pages to give.
Fair, yeah. And I mean, but I can still agree with you though. Like, I definitely wouldn't have minded more substance, I guess, from her in the later part of the story.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But here, yeah, she has a lot of crazy moments, a lot of scary faces.
Oh yes.
And I feel like Armin is really like her and Yelena have this this strange mental war game going on where I swear he's laughing at her when she's talking about Eren and Zeke being gods. And then he's just like, no, I'm just so moved.
Yeah, oh yeah.
and then she gives like this super sus doom look
Mm-hmm.
on him, and then switches to a smile. You know, man, psychological warfare.
Totally. Yeah, you're right. Huh.
So a little earlier on in the story, we get the infamous table scene.
Yes.
I had to bring that up because
Of
it
course.
still makes me cry, even with the forward, the hindsight that we have, the understanding of where the story goes. It still makes me cry because
Mm.
I see it as maybe painful for not just Mikasa and Armin, but Eren as well, having to
Yeah.
tell his friends these things,
Mm.
especially that he hates Mikasa, which is like, so strong.
Yeah. Well, both that and beating up
And
Armin
beating
like
Armin, you're
that,
right.
like
Yeah.
they're both
Uh-huh.
such dreadful things.
Absolutely.
So yeah, no, he must have definitely suffered through that. But also, like seeing Mikasa, well, she instantly stops Armin from attacking Eren, of course, and then when Eren starts beating Armin to a pulp, she can't do anything. Like, well, obviously, it's not because she's a slave to the Ackerman thing. It's obviously we know it's not that,
Right.
but she's just too emotionally lost, kind of right there.
Yeah.
So, but it's just such a sad moment for her to. Well, she actually stopped Armin, but she isn't stopping Eren. Thus, kind of, at least in the moment, kind of proving his point. Just
Exactly.
really sad.
And I think it was very manipulative of Eren to put it in that way because
Yeah.
as soon as I don't know if he was aware that Mikasa would, pin Armin down, but she did, and he used that to his advantage. Like, see, you're just a slave,
Yeah.
and that in turn made Mikasa just emotionally wrecked. She
Yep.
could not do anything at that moment.
Mm.
So he used the lies because we know some of the things he said were definitely lies. Even Zeke was like, "I have no idea what you're talking about, bruh."
Yeah.
So they were lies, and I think it's brilliant storytelling in that it really confuses the reader until the grand reveal.
Yeah.
Some people I think may have felt betrayed by that, but I was just relieved that it wasn't the case, and I kept telling myself and other people, it's like, no, it's not the case. Like, we're missing something here. Surely it can't be. And yeah, that's what it turned out to be. But I do like that whole deception behind it all.
Oh yes. Yeah, I really like it too.
It still hurts.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's. I mean, it's such a good scene. It's such a great scene. Like, it's memorable. It's iconic. And it's just so well written. The table scene. I love that we even have that word for it. Like, I don't know. I know we always refer to it that way on Titan Teatime.
Yeah.
I wonder, does the fandom refer to it that way as well as a whole, or is it just us?
I don't
Like,
know.
I actually don't know.
I really don't know.
Because I feel like we've done this like since the very early days on the podcast.
Yeah, I know we were calling it before I was reading much of anything from the fandom.
Right. Yeah. But well, a little bit more on Armin and Mikasa and partially Eren was when Mikasa and Armin went to visit Zachary in his office, and Mikasa asked, "What's going to happen to Eren?" Followed by Zachary glancing over at that shit machine. So, does that imply that he was considering putting Eren in the shit machine?
Zachary's messed up. Okay, we understand this.
We do, but I never thought that before, but this is, I guess, I think it's hilarious. I mean, he's horrible in that way, but Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's implying that, well, he would use the machine, but also that's how they would pin him down and then have someone eat him, I guess. I don't know. But that would ruin the chair.
Right. Uh,
So maybe the recruits were really doing a service to us all, so we don't have to see the chair anymore.
yes. Oh, yeah. You're
No,
right.
I'm kidding. Uh,
The best thing the Jaegerists ever did.
I think Levi's stand in the forest, like his battle there, is his last grand moment.
Mm,
Uh, Killing all those Titans that used to be his allies, and then going after Zeke like he does, and putting him in that situation.
yeah.
Um, that's really the peak Levi moment.
It is. Yeah.
Like he has that moment at the end of the story where he finally kills Zeke, and I thought that was satisfying, but it's not as epic and amazing and just awe-inspiring
Yeah. No,
and
absolutely.
emotional as this section of the story.
For sure, yeah, because what he did then, like when he chopped Zeke's head off, like anyone could have done that. It just happened to be Zeke,
Right.
kind of.
Hmm.
Or sorry, happened to be Levi.
I know what you meant.
But, uh, but but here, he killed like 30 or almost 30 Titans in the forest, all of whom were people he knew, which is,
Hmm.
like it's kind of like the ultimate test in a way. And he succeeded at that, and then beat Zeke. And on top of that, like it's not just the badass side of it; it's also like the brutality of it, as he's like just
You're right.
chopping Zeke's feet and legs off, which is
Yeah.
also like it's all Levi stuff, and it's all the kind of
Hmm.
or some of the reasons why we love Levi so much. Uh,
I mean, yeah.
so yeah, I guess it really is his final stand, kind of.
He doesn't really get to do much after that.
No, except survive.
I mean, hey, he's a survivor.
Mm, mm.
That Ackerman blood, man.
Oh yes.
I'm really curious if there's no way the Ackerman bloodline still has the same superhuman powers after the Titan curse is gone, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no way.
I strongly doubt that. I
Yeah.
think that's the reason why Levi's in a wheelchair at the very end, because I think
Uh,
if he hadn't lost the Ackerman powers, he would have, or at least in my headcanon is that he would have like made it out much better in that case. He would have healed better.
I think
But
that's fair.
because he lost that, or because that all vanished, he didn't heal as much, and he had to end up in a wheelchair. That's how I choose to view that, I guess.
I shall accept that headcanon.
Yeah. But then, Zeke's flashback chapter, I think,
Oh
is
yeah.
just so important and so good for the story.
Right.
In
Hmm.
that, it helps. I mean, definitely helped me appreciate both Zeke and Grisha a whole lot more than I had before. Like, just appreciate their characters kind of from a writing standpoint.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously, Xavier is always also great to kind of get to know him.
Sure.
But obviously, he wasn't really he wasn't much before that. But yeah, no, it gave so much just substance to, especially Zeke, of course. And yeah, I love that.
I love, as most great authors, they give you background on all of the, well, not all the characters, but everyone that could be viewed as maybe bad or evil. They give you some sort of background for them to make
Mm.
you start sympathize with them. And I don't know if I ever really called Zeke evil. Maybe during the Shiganshina arc.
Yeah.
I probably would have had those feelings. But ever since Marley on, I just never viewed him that way. But this gives such a greater, uh, deeper backstory for him that you really, really sympathize with him, similar to how we started sympathizing with Reiner.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, it's a very
and
similar thing, or it's a pretty similar thing.
yeah, hmm obviously different tragedies that happen for both of them, but in terms of how we sympathize with the characters, yeah, I think there's similarities to be had.
Yeah.
And it really helps you understand Xavier's and Zeke's reasoning behind this euthanization plan, um, and why they want to go about doing it.
Yeah.
But actually, I kind of jumped the gun on that. I I think again, yeah, this is great background. Poor Zeke, he just wanted a father.
Yeah.
That's how I view it. I know that's a very, I guess, broad understanding of who he is, but I really do think he just desired that fatherly, paternal love that he just wasn't able to get.
Absolutely.
Saber was able to be that father for him, but he was only able to be with him for a short time before Zeke had to eat him.
Yeah.
And his real father, he never felt love from. So yeah, I think that when he eventually gets that sort of closure, I think it's so healthy for Zeke. Yes, he has other things he still has to get over and um, come to grips with, but that was probably the first step for him to begin the healing process, was to finally forgive his father and feel loved.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is definitely a big thing. And I also like kind of on that whole thing with him and his father, how after he obviously at the end of his and Aaron's travel through Grisha's memories, he
Mm-hmm.
kind of he gets some closure with Grisha,
Yeah.
which I think was good for him,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm glad he got to have that. And when they get out of when the two of them get out of Grisha's memories after that, and they're back at the coordinate, when he mentions Grisha, I think the first time after returning to the coordinate, he starts to say Grisha's name, but he kind of, or sorry, he starts to say father, but he interrupts himself and instead says Grisha, because for a long part of his life he hasn't wanted to call him father.
Yeah.
He's only called him Grisha because he hasn't viewed him as a father. But
Mm-hmm.
in that moment, after he had just come back from that hug with Grisha and all that, he almost called him father. I just like that little detail there, because like
Yeah.
he almost got back to those to a time when he was his father. I think that's really sweet.
Yeah. I agree. Grisha did him dirty, like real dirty.
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
But I'm so glad that he sought forgiveness and that Zeke was eventually, I think, able to forgive him um, in a way.
yeah,
So yeah, I really like that um, progression, the character development. It's one of the highlights of the story for me.
definitely, absolutely. Yeah, Zeke is such a good character.
I don't agree with Saver when he says Zeke's parents never loved him. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
I think desires and our views in the world just get corrupted over time, and I think when he was first born, and it was definitely out of love and everything like that, but it eventually it led to an obsession.
mm,
So I do feel I do understand where Xavier's coming from, and it was probably the white lie that Zeke needed to hear
right,
in order for him to tell on his parents, but
yeah.
it also kind of made Zeke the way he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I had similar thought. Like everything else that Xavier says there, right before he says that his parents didn't love him, I think all of that is true. And then he kind of
Mm-hmm.
ends it off by saying, "And they didn't love you" or whatever.
And they never loved you. I was like,
Which is like, yeah, which is like the one thing I didn't quite agree with or didn't really think was true. But yeah, no, I think it was a good point that you said. Like, yeah, like I guess it was like a necessary white lie for him to actually help Zeke, because if Xavier hadn't intervened, then yeah,
You're right.
chances are Zeke and his parents and his grandparents would have all been turned into Titans and
Uh-huh.
died.
Yeah.
And another thing on Zeke,
Mm.
in the manga, they don't ever really show his butt when he returns, when he,
Yeah.
after the
It's so
resurrection.
funny.
But in the anime,
Yeah.
they really wanted to show his butt.
Mappa's like, please, please let us do it. Could you imagine? I mean, all right, I'll let you guys do it. I didn't feel like it didn't feel like it was worthy, but if you guys feel like you could do it, I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe Isayama couldn't get the butt cheeks right, and he was just like, you know what? I forget it.
right.
I'll let the animation team do that.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
maybe ECM specifically asked for Zeke
Yeah.
butt. Yep.
It's funny because I've heard some people complain about some shots for the manga where, like you see there, I think there was one where Sasha was sewing up Zeke, or not Zeke, Levi. He was shirtless at a time, but they
Yeah.
didn't animate that.
Ah.
There was another scene that I guess they didn't animate where the character was shirtless. I forget who. Um,
Mm.
but then the joke is like, no, but Zeke's butt, we need that.
Yeah, I mean, has Mappa been more for those kinds of things than what was? Maybe
Maybe,
I'm not entirely sure.
maybe,
Maybe.
maybe Wit doesn't like to do fan servicey things. I mean, I don't consider it fan servicey per se,
I mean,
but I guess some people are gonna be thirsty
could
about it.
could be. I mean, yeah, right.
I mean, look, people see Mikasa and she just has a white shirt on. They're like, "Oh my gosh, mommy,
Oh yeah,
mommy!"
like that long white shirt.
Yeah, yeah.
I was surprised at how big like the whole thing got.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mikasa is a woman. I mean, I simp for Mikasa, but the girl's just sitting down. She's not doing anything or standing.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, that was a funny thing.
I can't admire the feminine body. Excuse me. No, it's funny. People are gonna simp and drool over whatever they want.
Yeah, I mean, let them.
But I wonder. Well, oh yeah, and they totally can.
Uh-huh.
I just wonder, like, yeah, maybe Wit was not really into any sort of, or not too much fan service. I don't remember. Well, I guess they did do sit up Mikasa and all her muscles and everything.
That's true. Yeah,
Whatever. Maybe I don't know.
I mean, you're the one that said that Wits turned Carla into like the hot mom.
Oh, they did. They really did. But she had there was a lot left to the imagination, if you know what I mean.
I mean, oh man,
it's just her
I know
face.
what you mean. Yes, for sure. Yes.
Yeah, like, just to clarify, I'm definitely a simp. So like,
and that's okay.
I'm not trying to judge or make anybody who simps feel bad. Like, I'm there with you.
Yeah. Everyone just simp away.
Yeah. Simp to your heart's content. Anyway.
Yes. Oh yeah. So last time when we talked about the Marley arc, I mentioned the scene when Magath and Gabby reunite in Shiganshina, and I thought that they hugged each other then, which turns out I was right about that. And like it's a pretty brief, kind of quick hug, sort of. There's like two panels, and it's not all too much in your face,
long embrace.
Yeah, but still, it's like, I don't know. I just love it so much, just seeing Magath just really show his love for Gabby that way. I mean, yeah, I think it's sweet.
Agreed.
He was worried.
Absolutely.
Another sweet moment there from around that part in the story is Nile Doc, and how how sweet he is with Falco. Like he talks to him, and when they're when they're being detained, and
yeah, you're right.
And then he reunites him with Colt and Gabby after that. I really appreciate Nile Doc, even though obviously very small character, all things considered. But still such a sweet guy, and I love the role that he plays in this arc.
I was thinking the same thing, that he can see that these are just children, not terrible people. They're just children.
Yeah.
And lets him go. So I appreciate his humanity.
Absolutely. Even though he is soon to lose that humanity.
Yeah. Really depressing.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, before Zeke does his scream, there's a moment where Eren I think he says wait. I didn't really think about it until I saw it in the anime, and then I read it here, and I was like, yeah, he says wait.
Yeah.
And then Colt says wait and does his whole spiel. So I guess Eren did not want Zeke to do the screaming thing. Like, he did not want that to happen, to come to that.
Yeah.
Do you think he was thinking about, well, maybe he was thinking about his friends, either in case they drank it or having to fight Titans, but do you think he cared about the other people who drank it, like
I think
Pixis.
definitely
You know?
Pixis at least is one of the characters that he definitely knew at least, and that he had like
Mm-hmm.
some kind of relationship too.
Yeah.
Um, who was there? Anyone else? Well, I guess maybe he didn't know everyone. Like there could have been others that he cared for who had potentially drank it that he didn't know, and that ultimately
Hmm.
didn't, but he thought that maybe they had.
Okay, so maybe that's why
Perhaps,
he would want him to stop. Okay.
maybe. Although, I mean, maybe he did it just for Pixis. I don't know. Yeah.
But yeah, that's something I never noticed before because I don't know. I just thought he wouldn't have cared. But yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting.
Maybe that was a break in character for him,
Oh yeah,
like
like yeah.
a break in his edgy persona. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes, yes. Yeah, a little hint to showing the real Aaron.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, so before that, we have the one last Aaron versus Reiner fight, and I think it's you know pretty great. Aaron practically rips his head off a few, or I think once or twice. Uh, but they basically have Aaron pinned down because you have the sniper shot coming. It's another one of those moments where, against all odds, how can he get out of this?
Yeah.
Um, and he does in a way, but
Both of them really pull pretty amazing
you're right.
moves
Hmm.
and stunts and stuff.
Both Aaron and Reiner, yeah.
Yeah, right. But it's also funny, like, yeah, this is the last, or, well, I guess you could view the Battle of Heaven and Earth as the last time they face off, although it's in a
Yeah,
very
I thought
different way
about
than.
that, but I was like, it's a little
Um,
different because he's fighting the worm, kind of.
yeah, right. Mostly
Or the
that.
centipede.
But so yeah, I guess this is the last time, like, when they're actually properly facing off. And out of all the times that they've done it now, it's been 3 times, right?
Mm.
In the Clash arc, the Return to Shiganshina arc, and here. Or no, also in Marley. So the
Kind of Marley.
4 times. Yeah.
Hmm.
And in all of the cases, they're like, it's never been a perfect like one-on-one battle between the two of them. So we will never get to know who would have won in a perfect duel. So there never was anything like that. There was always interference in some way. So we can't know who would have won in a battle.
Indeed.
It's like the same question as to who won between Annie and Mikasa. Uh, we will never know.
Well, after the story, I'm gonna put my money on Annie. Like, I'm
Ah.
sure Mikasa is still, strong-ish, but
Oh, you
I
mean you're right.
think
After she lost the Ackerman powers, you mean?
after losing the Ackerman powers, I
Yeah.
I think Annie would probably have the upper hand there.
Yes. No, I think you're absolutely right on that.
The other thing I wanted to mention before continuing on is just I know I've already gushed about Oyankopon previously, but I love his line where he says, "Children are the future." And
Yeah.
you're darn right. And I love the idea of being against the whole euthanasia plan. Um, he didn't know about it, but once he hears it, he's like, no, that's not what I wanted. I,
Yeah.
I, I want us to fight against the Marleyan Empire
Mm.
together. I don't view you guys as demons. I think the Marleyan Empire is wrong for what they've been doing. And I just think Oyankopon is one of the most grounded people in this story.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the most open-minded and just yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah. So I guess on that, the euthanasia plan, what are your thoughts on it now that we know how the story went, and we understand exactly what all the characters were thinking, especially within this arc?
Mm.
For me, I hated it. I really did. I still see, especially now, where Zeke and I guess Zeke fans are coming from when they say Zeke was right, or it was the best. It was the best course of action. But it still bugs me to just kill off an entire society like that. It just doesn't seem right. Diversity is the spice of life, and
Absolutely.
just to say you have the potential to be a monster, therefore you cannot live, is wrong. Isn't that exactly how all sorts of terrible acts in humanity have, genocides have occurred? So I
Mm.
disagree. But
Yeah. No, yeah. I will say I think I mean it's we shouldn't maybe compare it, but if I should compare it to the Rumbling, I will say yeah, it's better than the Rumbling.
Yeah.
I would say that.
More cultures were destroyed within the rumbling.
Yeah, right.
80% rumbling.
Yeah, more people died, more cultures were destroyed. So ultimately, I'd say yeah, it's better than the rumbling, but it's not good. Like it's not. It shouldn't
Yeah.
be an option either. Like both are terrible.
I I do think that the original plan of just going out there and stopping Marley
Hmm.
and then somehow coming to a conclusion that way maybe could have worked, although it's hard to say because then people would be frightened. Oh, when are you just gonna rumble the whole world again? Or
Yeah.
later. It's hard.
But still, I think well, so because it would have been like the 50-year plan where
Yeah.
they show off their power with a partial
Hmm.
rumbling, like just like some military base or something somewhere,
Yeah.
in order to keep people off their backs.
Hmm.
And given time, they can grow their population. Plus, they could also, given time, hopefully, kind of well show their faces more and prove
Right.
their trustworthiness, kind of. And so I think there would have been hope with that. Obviously, it's
Yeah.
not it's not a foolproof solution necessarily, but it's still
Hmm.
I think it could have worked.
I definitely agree.
Hmm.
I think the one issue to all of this is the Titan powers themselves. And I think
Yeah.
that's, in the end, what Aaron was trying to get rid of.
Hmm.
Um, and look, yeah, he does say, I guess I would have done it anyway. That whole thing, I think he's very messed up. But
Yeah.
I also think his end goal was to get rid of the Titan power so that his friends could live without that curse and his
Hmm.
people could live without that curse.
Yep.
And I mean, I just think that having that as the ending does make me feel a little bit better about how we got there. Obviously, I don't condone it um, or agree with the 80%, but I understand now why he would go through with it and not just the plan that we described.
Right,
You know?
yeah. Yeah, like there is a benefit to it that doesn't exist in the 50-year plan, sure.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah. But he gets his head shot off.
Yeah. He gets his head shut off. Bye bye.
Um,
Volume 30, one of my favorites. I think
mm-hmm.
you get some great revelations, some
Oh,
great
yes.
backgrounds, and Grisha has his wonderful moment.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, yes.
Ymir and then Aaron, so good.
Yeah, like for me, it's primarily chapter 121 is
Oh yeah,
where
solid.
well the big Grisha chapter where he visits the Grice family, the Rice family. He doesn't visit Falco and Colt. No, he visits the Rice family. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So 121, I will say, is maybe my favorite chapter in all of Attack on Titan.
Oh, that's a
Uh,
great chapter to be your favorite. It's awesome.
yeah, I mean, I can't say for sure because obviously there's a bunch, but it may be my absolute favorite. Um, anyway, yeah. So yeah, I mentioned the Grisha and the Rice family, and obviously that whole scene, which is the reason why Grisha is my second favorite character in all of Attack on Titan, was that scene was what got him up there,
Hmm.
that high, and also the scene before that in the same chapter, kind of the recreation kind of the scene at Aaron's house from chapter one. It's just so
Yeah,
so cool to see it from like a different perspective there, and have Aaron and Zeke kind of observing that. And the anime, I think, definitely didn't disappoint with that. It was
no,
beautifully done.
yeah, absolutely. Voice acting and animation was just
Mm,
on point.
yeah.
Um, this trip down memory lane is highly debated, and what exactly happened. And I don't think the anime makes it any clearer. The more I think about it, I do think there is some future memories at play. Obviously, since they explain that whole situation,
Mm.
um, you know, through the Attack on Titans, I understand that. But there's a couple moments where Grisha touches both Zeke and Aaron. Well, Aaron touches Zeke in the anime, like he shakes him.
Or Tachi Grisha, you mean?
Grisha, did I say Zeke? Excuse
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
Grisha.
Yes.
Yeah, he shakes Grisha, grabs his shoulder and says, "You got to do this,"
Yeah.
which was not looking through the manga was not implicated whatsoever. So it makes you wonder, how much are they there physically, and is Grisha able to see them in that plane, like paths somehow, like there's some sort of thinness of the veil, so to speak,
Right.
or is it just all through Aaron's memories, which it could easily be.
Yeah.
It's not very clear, and to say it's one way or the other without keeping an open mind, I think, is not right. But to each their own. You can have your own headcanons and definite beliefs. That's totally fine.
Right.
But yeah, I just think it's a fascinating, hard to understand, completely understand phenomena that I just really enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love it too. And I actually like the fact that it is kind of vague like that, and
Yeah.
in like how it's, well, kind of, the system behind it. Well, and I mean, there's a lot of that kind of stuff related to paths, and I like it personally.
Yeah.
Another thing about that is whether or not Zeke and Aaron are actually like real time kind of walking along Grisha in his life, like all the way from like Aaron being a baby until he's 10.
Oh.
Or if they're actually fast forwarding.
Yeah.
Or not, because I felt like there were hints toward both, because there are several points where they say next, especially Zeke starts saying it and then Aaron does it a little later. He kind of takes over. He takes the lead. But there's like the fact that they say next kind of implies that they can just kind of like skip to the next scene, sort of,
Right. Yeah.
Thus, but then I think afterward, I think one of them mentioned, was probably Zeke, that they had spent all those years in Grisha's memories or something like that, which would imply the opposite. So that's also kind of unclear as to if they actually lived with or kind of spent all those years real time with Grisha, or well, observing Grisha, or if they skipped ahead from time to time. But yeah.
I think what this all proves is that time and space within paths is all relative.
Oh yes, for sure.
It's not defined in any way.
You're right.
Which is fascinating. I love that about it.
Yeah, totally.
I guess some people might not like the whole supernatural aspect of it, even though we are dealing with supernatural beings such as titans.
Yeah, right.
Whatever.
It's always been supernatural.
Yeah.
But yes, then comes chapter 122, the last chapter of the War for Paradis arc, I would like to say. And when this chapter came out, I remember, I think I was at work when it came out, and so I read it on my phone. I read like some fan translation on my phone right as it had come out, like on work. And I saw the title, and I was like, oh my god, because obviously it is a reference, obviously, to the first to the first chapter,
right?
And I just assumed and felt pretty confident that it was the last chapter. Like this is the end of the manga. Oh my god, here we go. So I read the chapter, expecting it to be the final chapter, and obviously it wasn't. But man, it would have been crazy if that would have been the final chapter.
Yeah, man. What a way to end it.
Yeah.
World is doomed. Actually, we wouldn't even know. Like we'd be speculating for years. Like, what actually happened after that?
Honestly, it would have been a pretty cool ending in a way.
Yeah.
But no, I'm happy it continued afterward. But I think something that's really cool about that chapter is just how it tells a very captivating story, while big parts of the chapter are told using very few words, or even no words at all.
Yeah.
On several parts. So I think that's just really cool how the chapter tells the story that way.
Indeed. It gives Emir still a sense of mystery, but also clarity as we see her background. Like, she's still a being far from the past, but now we're seeing who she really is, and I don't know. Like,
yeah,
I liked how he went about doing it. And again, I think the anime did a great job of giving it a little more detail and fluff. And that was pretty
Totally.
good.
Yeah, it was really well adapted. Like the use of music and the
Mm-hmm.
just like the color schemes and everything. Yeah, it was great. Um, I also like in the manga at least. I don't think this was anything that was uh, done in the anime, but in the manga they, when Emir Fritz dies, it's visually very similar to how it looked when Zeke quote unquote dies from the Thunder
Mm.
Spear explosion, in that we see
Good
like
comparison.
we see the flower and then kind of the panels kind of swoop to the right while gradually becoming smaller and kind of focusing in on the character's eye. It's like completely the same visual on the page, like a black page, and in the bottom left corner you see Emir Fritz kind of in paths, implying that they're both going to paths right then. So yeah,
Mm.
it's cool.
Something that I noticed in this read through, and maybe you already did, but
Hmm?
or I mean, I guess I noticed this detail. So the Eldian people look kind of barbaric. I guess you could say Vikingish.
Yeah,
Whereas the Marlians look, they have armor on. You might even say Rome kind of.
yeah. I also feel like that's kind of aesthetically what they look like.
Right. So what I didn't put together was they said that the Marlians were their enemies, the spies. And so I wonder at that point, because the Marlians looked very much kind of wealthy and well to do. So maybe they were a country that had oppressed the Eldian, or at least their group,
Mm.
for a few years, and that's why they were so hated. And then this tribe, I guess, the Eldian tribe, suddenly gained this grand power of the Titans, and then flipped it on the back. So
Yeah,
the Marlians, who may have been oppressors, became the suppressed, and
yeah,
then eventually became oppressed again. So maybe that's part of the lore.
yeah, dude. I mean, I hadn't thought of that exactly. I had definitely thought though that Marley back then was, well, like a bigger country, more of a richer country compared to
Hmm.
I guess Eldia back
Whatever
then.
Eldia was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Um, but the fact that they may have even perhaps like oppressed the Eldian people is an interesting idea. And it would have meant that it would just come back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, kind of uh,
Yeah. That kind
between
of
with
situation.
that. But yeah, that is interesting for sure.
So this is kind of going back to the previous chapter.
Hmm?
Aaron, he did not see everything when he kissed Historia's hand, but he did see the side of, I guess, the blue skies, and I guess him taking out the Titans.
Mm.
But did he see, or did he know at that time that Mikasa would be the one to kill him? Because it seems like he knew that was going to happen. So when did he see that? And if our theory, because I think we share the same thought, that Aaron saw his whole life when he was sleeping under that tree in chapter 1.
Hmm.
And so he saw Mikasa kill him. If that's true, did he see that moment as well when he kissed Historia's hand? Did he see it in paths? Like I don't know. Did he know, and that's why he was so insistent on not letting Mikasa be there? Or maybe I don't know. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he didn't know exactly at the time until he got into paths. That would
Yeah,
happen.
I could imagine that maybe he knew it since before Paths,
Uh
because
huh.
if he did, then I mean, the way he insulted her at in the table scene could have been in order to kind of I guess get turn her
Oh.
against him to the
Yeah,
to the
maybe.
degree where she would want to kill him, or well,
Yeah.
kind of, but perhaps. But I guess
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to say anything for sure about that.
It's true. Oh, yeah, it's true. But
Hmm.
that's a great point.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so I don't know. I mean,
Uh,
another one of those vague kind of, he lets the reader figure that out for himself
yep.
kind
Yep.
of a thing.
Yeah.
And I have a theory about the Attack Titan.
All
And
right.
I don't think I've said this before. Um, so we know it can see the future
Mm-hmm.
as well as keep moving forward. Like, it has the mentality.
Yes.
But I think it's not because of the Attack Titan itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because of Aaron.
Yeah.
And Did I say this already?
I don't
Uh,
think you have, but I think I've thought of this before.
yeah.
I
So
don't think we've talked about it though. So go on.
okay, because he's in paths, he has the ability to manipulate past versions. You know, the past attack Titan wielders
Hmm.
that other Titan power wielders would not have.
Yeah.
And so that's why they can see future memories, and that's why they all have the same mentality to keep moving forward.
Yes. I absolutely think that is the case as well. I
Mm.
Yeah, as I said, I don't think we've ever talked about this, but I have absolutely thought about this as well as some kind of, well, explanation to that mentality, because obviously in the case of King Fritz, all of the royal blooded founding titans, they inherit his mentality
Ah.
because well obviously we will, well, for one, without going into like paths shenanigans like Eren does, uh like ideologies and mindsets and stuff like that are, and memories in general, are easier to pass on within family, supposedly.
Mm.
So that I think that is why the 145th king's mindset is passed on only to his descendants, or I guess others of royal blood in general.
Mm-hmm.
So like we know that we know there is this whole thing where, well, obviously where a previous Titan shifters of other Titans have affected the mindsets of later inheritors, but for Eren to have, well, to go the reverse order and have affected everyone, or a lot of, at least, people before him who have held the Attack Titan. Technically, he
Mm-hmm.
should have been able to do this to, I guess, Warhammers and Founding
Oh.
Titans as well, I guess.
Mm. Maybe.
But I still like the theory enough to think that, no, I mean, he may have just gone for the Attack Titans.
Right.
Uh, or actually, never mind. So I don't
Oh.
know, or I guess no, Attack Titan makes sense because it's the only one that can see its future holders' memories, right? So it makes sense for that
Well,
to be the only one, or unless he did the same thing with Grisha, where it wasn't necessarily related to his Titan.
but that's my
Hmm.
thinking is that
Yeah.
that the attack Titan doesn't inherently have that power. It's because of Eren that it has that power.
Oh wait. Oh, sorry. I thought you meant.
So
I sorry. I think I misunderstood you. I thought you only meant the mentality of always moving forward. I think that I thought that was the only thing you were referring to.
no, like that definitely is passed down. Like he's influencing
Mm,
the attack Titan that way, and it's probably because it just needed to happen for him to eventually get that Titan power.
mm.
But I also think that Eren, while he's in paths, is able to send memories from the future to previous attack Titan holders, thus giving them the ability to see into the future.
Interesting.
That's
Okay.
my theory.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah, I've never thought of this. Ah, I mean, maybe.
It's kind of out there, but it, it kind of goes along with the keep moving forward mentality that the attack Titan has.
True, true.
Um, so what one thing that I thought might contradict this is, does the founding Titan, does Emir, did she have the ability to see memories from the future? But or I, it's hard to explain. Like what exactly, when she had her Titan, did she have all the powers of the nine? And if so, was that one of her powers as well, to see into the future without going into paths?
Mm,
Um, I don't know. Like is that's never confirmed.
yeah,
Grisha says that to Frida,
yeah.
says that, oh, you looks like you don't know about the Attack Titan having the ability to see into the future, uh, and he blames the Carl Fritz for the memory, or the vow against war.
Mm.
Um, so does that imply that they could have that ability as well to see into the future if it wasn't for the uh, the vow against war,
Yeah.
or is it that the vow against war doesn't allow them to know certain things. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. So that does kind of go against my theory, but I do think it would be quite fascinating if it just boils down to Eren, because he's in paths, is able to influence everything in the way that it needs to in order to get to the desired outcome.
Well, actually, a thought that came to mind for me now that actually supports your theory there is that what if you're right about that whole thing, and that it's not necessarily a power to the attack titan, but it's something. Well, yeah, it's something that Eren has influenced kind of actively through paths directly to some previous attack titans. If it's the case that, yeah, you said the royal family on Paradis didn't know about it,
Mm-hmm.
but let's say that Kruger, or maybe the person before Kruger, was the first person alive to have received future memories from Eren.
Mm-hmm.
Then the royal family on Paradis wouldn't know about it in that case, because
Oh,
they would have already been settled there. So anything that happened outside of Paradis wouldn't be known to them regardless anyway there.
okay.
Because the only ones we know that received future memories for sure are Kruger and Grisha. So it's possible
Mm.
that they might possibly it was just the two of them that ever received future memories from Eren, or from each other or whatever, or well from Eren, and if this theory is to be believed.
Yeah.
Um, and so it might have actually not been a thing for most of Titan history that the Attack Titan received those kinds of memories. It may have just been a thing that started with Kruger or the person before him, or like something like that.
Yeah. Maybe it was strategic placement of those memories on Eren's part to
Yeah.
keep the founding or the royal family out of the loop.
Yeah, right. Sorry, I'm I'm fighting with Shino now a little bit. Because she's in heat right now, and so she starts meowing a bunch if she just walks around freely in the room. So I've been holding her throughout this whole
Mm.
recording, and to keep her quiet, or to keep her, well, as quiet as possible. But I guess she's getting tired of being held by me now, so she's really fighting me. I guess I should just let her go and just kind of do my best to edit out the meows. So I guess from this point on, there isn't too much left of the discussion. But from this point on,
No.
I apologize for any potential meows that might be heard in the episode. I will let her go free.
Be free,
Yes.
Shino. Keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Freedom.
She will.
Yeah, so that's my theory. People who are listening, feel free to comment either on YouTube or our Discord. You feel free to disagree with me, or maybe bring up things that could support that. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's obviously nothing that is ever going to be outright confirmed, I don't think. But it's kind of fun to think about how much Eren really had an influence potentially on things.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Since he did spend a lot of time in paths, so a lot could have happened.
Right. Zeke was even saying, "I waited so long for you to get back to yourself," and so in that supposed millisecond of time, it took an eternity. So I'm pretty sure Eren had a lot of time on his hands.
Oh yes.
My last thing is I love Eren's promise to end the first king's world of Titans.
Mm.
I think at the time you hear that and then you see the next few chapters and you think, oh my gosh, he's actually going to destroy the world. And technically he does go about doing that.
Yeah.
But knowing again that the Titan powers are destroyed and that the subjects of Ymir are free from that curse, it feels like it puts that entire line and that scene with Eren embracing Ymir into context, and in that he's freeing her from the terrible fate of having to create titans repeatedly and having to live in that basically purgatory hell.
Yeah.
Um, so again, I don't know if 80% of the rumbling was the only way to get to that point. Could they have somehow pulled out the centipede from a founding titan somehow?
I mean, the thing
I
I've thought of this, and
uh-huh.
if they had tried to like basically just kind of stage the whole thing, like
Yeah.
the Battle of Heaven and Earth, just do it in a safe place, kind of, and just kind of do the whole thing without rumbling the whole world.
Okay, Heaven and Earth mock battle, take 3. Ready, go.
Yeah, no, but I guess what the issue that I could see then is that there wouldn't have been there wouldn't have been any stakes, obviously, and without the stakes,
Right.
they may not have been willing to go as far as they did. Like, I mean, the alliance, like they
Oh, okay.
they may not have been willing to, well, kill Eren, which was necessary for the whole thing to work.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hmm.
yeah. You're right.
That's yeah, that's how I see that.
That's very heavy.
Hmm.
Whew.
Yeah.
So in theory, you couldn't like rip out, for example, when what's her name? I keep forgetting. Always Frida.
Yeah.
When she transforms into her founding Titan,
Mm.
um, you can't just like say rip off her head, and then that spine. Would that be the centipede? Or was this form that Aaron takes the only way? Because I guess it's different because he's embracing Emir, and together they form this giant thing.
Yeah, you're right.
Um,
You're right.
so I guess that was that the only way that they could think of to get the centipede out.
That's very possible from Aaron's side of the whole thing, that was
Yeah.
something that he needed to do. Maybe, yeah, yeah. Obviously, can't say for sure, but yeah, I think I guess it would make sense, because otherwise I feel like the centipede thing would have been more of a known thing, or like it may
Right.
have been seen perhaps at some point before in
Hmm.
history, potentially.
So it.
Hmm,
Hmm. So it just Emir had to be part of it,
perhaps, yeah,
part of that transformation in order to reveal it. I guess.
yeah, maybe.
Okay. Anyway, that was my last thought and at least point. But I don't know if you have anything else.
Well, I just wanted to give a little credit to the Attack on Skullcast's stuff we got in these
Oh
books as well.
yeah,
uh,
always a joy.
yeah, yeah, like this, like for example, like the Seance one, I think had a great mix of just funny and creepy. It was
Yeah.
I thought that was great, but also the zombie one and the one where Aaron got kidnapped by the Emir cultists, that those were also amazing. Yeah, I think I'm appreciating these gags more than I did my first time reading them.
Good.
I'm really having a blast reading these.
Yeah, I love them. I think they're hilarious.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
I still like, who does Aaron like or something like that.
mhm.
Is ooh, this is spooky. Like who could it be? Yeah,
uh,
it's so funny.
yeah. But let's move on to the big question. Favorite character arc through these books?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I have to go with Aaron. Um,
Mm.
because I do put him at number 2 on my favorite characters list, and I don't think
Mhm.
I've had Aaron as my favorite character in any of the arcs.
Oh,
So it's like,
really?
why is he my number 2?
Oh,
Um,
didn't we?
I don't think did
Or
I do Aaron as number 1? I may have done Aaron. No, I'm pretty sure Mikasa was in my number for the first
I thought
first arc.
maybe we had. I thought maybe both of us may have had him on the female Titan arc, perhaps. Although I could be wrong about that. I would have
I
to
can't
double
remember.
check that. But anyway, go on.
Okay, I could be wrong, but I I think he had a solid second half of this arc. Well, not even even the first half of this arc, he played up this mysterious character, and it was so frustrating. But he had great scenes like the table scene and
Mm,
revealing where the true enemy is. We didn't even talk about that.
yeah,
Oh, just the
right.
chills.
Why do we
Um,
always forget about
I
talking
don't
about
know.
the peak stuff?
I don't know. What kind of peak simps are we? We failed.
We
We
have
we
failed.
failed you. I will not forget to mention you in the next arc, in the last arc.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um. So yeah. But all those moments happen in the first half, but then the second half, it leads up to that second half satisfying. It was like, yes, this is Aaron. He's real. He's back. He's still saying his classic lines because I was born into this world,
Yes.
and he's not brainwashed, and he frees in a sense, or begins to free Ymir, and it's just all powerful for me. And so I put Eren at my number one. But there's a lot of good characters that could take that spot. Grisha, Zeke.
Zeke is worthy, yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a solid arc. It's not my favorite arc because I do think it kind of. Well, I guess I'll save that. Who's your favorite character?
All right. Well, I'll mention quickly that I wanted to pick Zeke, but because I thought his was great, so I'll say that's my number 2. My number 1 pick, however, is Gabby for this arc.
Oh yeah.
Because she starts this arc by just savagely beating up an Eldian guard with a brick.
Yeah.
He just wanted to help her. So like that's how she started off this arc, and she ends it by, essentially saving the life of a Paradisian Eldian, Niall Doc, when he came with Falco. Colt was, had the intention of shooting Niall, but Gabby, stopped him from doing that. Was like the first good thing near the end of this arc for her, and then ultimately, pretty shortly after that, she had the whole understanding that Eldians everywhere are just the same as all other people in the world. And so yeah, she came so far in this arc, and I love her so much for it.
Absolutely.
Best girl for me, 100%.
And then blast Eren's heads off.
Yeah.
Ultimate act of kindness.
Just to top it off.
Right there.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Gabby has one of the best character growths in this story. It reinforces what Reiner learned and what Eren learned in Marley, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's a great choice, and she's up there for me as well.
Nice.
I'd just say overall about this arc, I think it kind of starts off a little slow. There's some good moments, but it takes a while to really get into it, especially having the epic Marley arc just before that.
Yeah.
Amazing that. But then we get into some really peak fiction Attack on Titan moments in the later chapters.
Yes.
With volume 30 just being amazing, in my opinion.
Yeah, once peak joins, it becomes peak fiction.
Absolutely. There, that was worth forgetting about her the entire time just for that pun.
Yeah.
Success.
Yes. But yeah, no, I agree. It does start off a bit slow. It took me much longer than I expected to just read the first volume of this arc today.
Yeah.
There's a lot of text in it, I suppose. Compared to, I suppose, the later books in this arc, but yeah, no, I mean, I still enjoy it.
Sure.
I definitely do, but I still do agree with you.
Yeah.
But then again, this is such a great arc for so many characters, as we said, like Eren, Zeke, Gabby.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Good build up.
Very good, yeah. So yeah, excited for the final arc next month.
Woo!
And yeah, we have a Discord server for Teatime and for Umami Manga, our general manga podcast. So links in the video description on YouTube for anyone who wishes to join those. We have a lot of fun discussions in there. And if you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga. And it would be lovely if you'd like to support us by either rating our show on the podcast platforms or subscribing to our channel Umami Manga on YouTube. If you like this episode, please share it with anyone you think might enjoy it too. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time when we'll talk about the final arc of Attack on Titan. Bye-bye.
Woo! See you later.
We are only almost 2 hours late. But yo, this is a good way for me to start off my birthday.
I guess I should have said this earlier, but if you wanted to put this off until a different date and you want to get some sleep, we could totally do that.
No.
It's not too late.
No. We're doing this now. Plus, I enjoy this. We'll be done by 4 a.m. And I probably would, ish. And I probably would have stayed up until around then regardless. So
All right.
This
All
does
right.
not affect my sleeping schedule.
Okay, good.